listener production.
Hi, Natarsha Belling with you, and welcome to the afternoon edition of The Briefing. Coming up in our deep dive, it's being seen as the biggest GST scam in Australian history. Fraudsters somehow allegedly stealing billions of dollars from the ATO in a reported loophole. We unpack how it all happened. But first, let's check the afternoon headlines this Monday, the 28th of July. Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce has introduced a bill to repeal Australia's 2050 net zero emissions target, arguing the policy is making Australian households poorer.
Because it's the poorest who need the power to keep themselves warm at a time of the year like this in areas such as mine. It is putting people, and it genuinely is, out of their house, because not only is it the price of power, it's also in the price of groceries. It filters through. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this to these people?
Meantime, the United Nations top climate official has urged the Albanese government to be bold with its 2035 emissions reduction target, due to be formally submitted to the UN in September. Speaking in Sydney on Monday, UN climate chief Simon Steele says the decision was more than just another policymaker, calling it a potential, quote, defining moment for Australia's climate leadership. Steele is expected to meet with Climate Change and Energy Minister Chris Bowen tomorrow. Celebrity Crocodile Wrangler Matt Wright has pled not guilty to 3 counts of attempting to pervert the course of justice ahead of his Supreme Court trial in Darwin this week. The specific details of the charges are yet to be released, but the allegations relate to the aftermath of a fatal helicopter crash in 2022, which killed Mr. Wright's friend and Wild Croc Territory co-star Chris Willow Wilson. Mr. Wright has strenuously denied the allegations and is scheduled to return to court on Wednesday. And a video of Donald Trump allegedly cheating in golf has gone viral. The US president is in Scotland for a 3-day tour, meeting with local leaders over tariffs. The 79-year-old also took the opportunity to play a round of golf at his own course called Trump International Golf Links. In the video, 2 men, either caddies or officials, walk ahead of the president and seem to drop a new golf ball in a much better spot for President Trump to hit. Hundreds have commented on the viral post saying, quote, Trump caught cheating at golf, watch the second guy in the red vest toss a ball behind him. Another adding, I could get my index down considerably if I had his caddy with me every time I played. And if you want to check out the viral video, you can head to our socials. The links are in our show notes. Now it's time to get into our deep dive on the massive GST scam that's seen everyday Australians steal around $2 billion from the ATO. Tonight, Four Corners on the ABC runs a special investigation into the allegations. We preview the tell-all with a former head of the tax watchdog, Ali Noroozi, and ask him, how did the scam operate, how did it happen, and what happens next? Ali, this is a pretty extraordinary scam that's been uncovered by the ABC. Can you explain exactly how this scam works?
Well, certainly the numbers that the media is reporting are quite large, and it was fairly simple from what's been reported. It seems as if all you needed was a fake ABN number, then you could go and lodge a fake business activity statement and claim GST refund against non-existent business expenses. And apparently it was very easy to do, and it was even being promoted on TikTok.
So the ABC is reporting that this was actually a loophole with the Australian Taxation Office, that it was so vast that tens of thousands of Australians stole a total of $2 billion. How could there be a loophole like that?
I don't know whether it's a loophole. I think perhaps it's more like a weakness in the system that's been exploited. So it's fairly easy to get an ABN number, for example. Now, when you have situations like that, you want to make it easy for people to do business. So you don't want to wrap them up in regulation and red tape. But by the same token, you don't want fraud to be, progress so rapidly. So either you have to improve the regulations or you have to watch the system like a hawk to make sure that, well, frauds don't occur, or if they do, they don't spread so fast.
Were there adequate checks and balances in the system if this was allowed to continue?
Well, I guess that's a question for the ATO, but I did do a review when I was the Inspector General of Taxation. In 2018, I released a report on GST refunds. And one of the findings of that report was that their risk assessment tools were not yielding the result one would expect, and that they really should have been aiming to do better.
So what do you mean by that?
Basically, the whole process of GST refunds is largely automated. So they have, these risk assessment tools or, automated tools that try to pick up either mistakes or fraud or whatever. And their strike rates there was only slightly better, or aspects of their tools achieve results not much better than random selection.
So do you think if this happened in this scenario, that this kind of fraudulent behaviour was able to go quite unnoticed for quite some time, that there could be other fraud going on right now that the systems, the checks and balances are not picking up right now?
I guess we never know until the next fraud occurs. But what I think hopefully it's been learned from this, that, there needs to be improvement. And I believe that the ATO has improved their systems, and this had occurred whilst that was in progress or hadn't been implemented yet. Now, the key with any kind of, dealing with any kind of fraud is to act on early warning signs, and you have to act quickly and at scale to stop it from progressing. Now, in this case, the media reports are suggesting that certain banks had even raised concerns, but it wasn't until the Reserve Bank had raised it that they claimed that action was only taken when the Reserve Bank had raised it. So again, having looked at other types of GST fraud, the key is, well, actually any type of fraud, you need to act on the early warning signs quickly and at scale to make sure that you, stop the flow. Now, in this case, the media report suggests that up to 4.6 or 4.7 billion was sort of fraudulently claimed, but the ATO managed to stop about 2.7 billion of that without the amount being given to would-be claimants. And of the remaining 2 billion, I understand the ATO has clawed back about 122 million, but it has raised liabilities of 1.9 billion. Now, these are all media reports that, one should seek confirmation from the ATO. But those are the reports. And it's good that the ATO has got it's an operation called Operation Protego. And if you go onto their website, you'll see a list of people they have prosecuted, and these people will suffer both criminal and civil penalties. So they'll obviously have to pay it back, but there will be criminal sentencing too.
Ali, it seems with the media reporting of this fraud system and the flaws in the system is that it was actually quite easy to do. The media is reporting this again. Ali, can you explain? So it's basically these people have allegedly set up ABNs for fake companies and then claimed GST through that. What, through actually then making up income into that business?
Expenditure. So what they've done is they've made GST refunds in relation to non-existent expenditure. So buying equipment, for example. So things that they may never have bought, they claim to have bought, and then they've claimed GST refunds. In other words, 10% of what they paid for it would have been GST. So they've claimed the refund on those.
So if there were lots of red flags in regards to this, Ali, that's being reported in the media, that a number of banks had even flagged this, why didn't the ATO take action?
I guess that's a question for the ATO. Now, my understanding is that the ATO did take action, and they have, because they managed to stop 2.7 billion from being paid out. And they've also, are prosecuting people. But I guess what I was saying was that perhaps they could have acted quicker with regards to those early warning signs. So these are the questions I think that needs to be put to the ATO. I'm sure they would have legitimate answers for those. You got to bear in mind that much of this also happened during COVID, or at least that's what's being reported.
So there would have been a lot on a lot of businesses' plates at that stage.
Correct. And I think, the reporting has gone and spoken to some of the perpetrators of this fraud. And I think the simplicity and the fact that it was being promoted on social media such as TikTok is quite breathtaking. And perhaps given that it was being promoted through TikTok, some of them may not have even appreciated the entire gravity of the situation.
We really appreciate you joining us. Ali, thanks so much.
My pleasure.
That was Professor Ali Noroozi, former Inspector General of Taxation. And that's it for this episode of the afternoon edition of The Briefing. We'd love you to subscribe or follow us on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast, and we'll be back in your feed tomorrow morning. I'm Natarsha Belling. Thanks for your company.